Chapter 28. When they come for us in the apple trees. It's not like Littleface suddenly turned into a chatterbox or anything. He still doesn't talk much, only when it's very important, and he can't make himself understood any other way. Bree says Littleface isn't a proper name, and when he gets a little older, she'll help him choose a real name. Jin pretty much keeps out of it, although I noticed he's starting to treat the boy like his own child. So maybe it will all work out, if they can figure out how to get around the rules. Meanwhile, me and Bean and Ryder spent a lot of our time outside. We discovered that the coolest things in the world is to walk on the grass in our bare feet. Grass walking. It feels sort of tickly and smooth and alive somehow, even though it's just this green stuff that grows out of the ground. Bean says she's never seen anything so beautiful, and that the only thing she likes as much as grass are the flowers and trees and maybe the blue sky. Did they have these things before they invented Eden? She wants to know. Oh yes, I think so, Ryder tells her. They say that before the big shake, trees grew right in the middle of the herb, grass and flowers too. Bean smiles and shakes her head. She thinks maybe it's just back-timer talk, but she's too polite to say so. In my opinion, what's happened to Bean is even more amazing than the stuff that grows out of the ground. Her skin is no longer pale or sick-looking. She's strong enough to run and jump and turn cartwheels, which she hasn't been able to do since she was like 5 years old. I'm a new me, she brags, new and improved. Don't let the proves hear you say that, I warn her. They think they're the only ones who are improved. We're walking, all three of us, along what they call a brook. A brook is like a river, only smaller, and if you stick your bare feet in the clear, cool water, it feels good. Ryder says sticking his old feet in the water makes him feel younger, even though the water makes you wrinkle after a while. How come you're always talking about being old? Bean wants to know. Because I am old, Ryder says. I don't really mind the old part. I'm just worried I won't have enough time to finish my book. Bean nods wisely, as if she expected that particular answer. But would it ever really be finished? She asked. I thought the book was your life, and it would only end when your life ends. Except it won't really end because people will read it and remember, so in a way, you'll live forever. At first I think he's offended, but after a while a smile slowly creases his aged face. Thank you, Bean, he says and pats her hand. For what? For reminding me why I'm a writer. They come for us one day while Bean and me are climbing apple trees. An apple is truly delicious edible that actually grows on trees, and it always tastes better if you pick it yourself. The only thing better is if your friend picks it for you. Bean finds the best apple in our tree and hands it up to me. You know what this tastes like when you first bite into it? She asks. No, what? Blue sky. You're zoomed. You ever eat blue sky? No, I admit. Try it sometime, she says. It's apple flavored. There's no arguing with Bean when she gets hold of a silly idea, so I don't bother trying. Besides, I kind of like the idea. I'm also thinking it would be cool if we could just stay in the tree and never come down, which is probably at least as zoomed as thinking that the sky tastes like apples. We talk about everything while we're up in the tree munching on apples. Stuff from when we were kids, and dumb things Charlie said, and what it was like after I got banished, and my adventures with Ryder and the boy, and the rats in the pipe, everything, except one thing. We don't talk about what will happen if we have to return to the herb. We don't want to think about it, let alone talk about it, because once you've felt grass under your feet and tasted blue sky, well, you never want to go back. We're counting clouds when they come for us. At first we think it's one of the clouds, the way it floats through the air, but as the thing gets closer, it looks something like a floating Takvi without the armor. Except, unlike a Takvi, it doesn't make any noise, just a soft whoosh as it passes through the air. Later, I find out it's called a Skydi, for Sky Flight Device, and it works on some sort of magnetic repulsion deal. I'm thinking maybe Lanaya arranged to give us a ride so we can see Eden from the air, but it's not it at all, not even close. The Skydi comes to a gentle stop beneath the apple trees, hovering just above the grass. The little craft opens, and two proofs get out. Big, male types designed to have extra muscles. And unlike most proofs, they're not dressed in white tunics. They're wearing what looks like security uniforms, enforcers. They stand under the apple tree and look up at me. One of them goes, Are you the normal called Spaz? Yes. You and your companions have been summoned by the masters. You must come at once. Apparently they don't trust us to obey, because then when me When me and Bean get down from the tree, they place us in body cuffs and take us away as if we're criminals, which, as it turns out, we are. Chapter 29. Say Goodbye to Eden. So we get to fly in the Sky Deep, but it isn't much fun. The enforcers shove us down into the bottom of the vehicle where we can't see anything, and when Bean starts to complain, they go, "Silence!" in a way that makes my stomach melt, so we both shut up until we get there. There is a place called Stadium, only it's nothing like the ruins of the old Stadium of the Herb, which are huge piles of crumbling concrete and rusted steel. Stadium is really a small curving hillside that looks like it was scooped out by a giant spoon. When we get there, the green hillside is already covered with people, proofs of course, and the enforcers tell us they've all been summoned too, just like us. So they all arrived in body cuffs, I ask, and one of the enforcers looks at me like I'm some sort of talking animal, not worth answering. The enforcers release the body cuffs, and Bean and me stumble into the smooth black circle at the bottom of the hillside. The surface under our feet is polished like a dark mirror, but not slippery somehow. Ryder is already in the black circle waiting for us. He's holding his walking stick and standing tall in a fresh white tunic. His white beard ruffles in the breeze, and he looks fierce and proud and very old all at the same time. "Don't leave the circle," he warns us. "The edges are charged, and you'll get a rude shock." "Ryder," I say, "what's going on?" Ryder gazes up at the gathering crowd of proofs. There's barely an empty space on the hillside. What makes it really weird is, before this, we haven't ever seen more than 5 or 6 proofs in the same place at the same time. Now there are thousands of them out there. We hear the murmur of their voices, and we can almost feel the force of thousands of proofs staring at us, wanting to know who we are and how we dared enter Eden. "What's going on? Judgment Day is here?" Ryder says. "A kind of trial, I assume." "Trial? What's a trial?" "From the back times," Ryder explains. "It was a way of deciding if you broke the rules and what the punishment should be if you did. The latch bosses made all those decisions in the herb, and since a latch boss also made his own rules, you never really know until you've broken one, and then it's too late. They have a different way of enforcing things here," Ryder says. "Jin explained it when they came for me. It seems we've been found in violation of the rules forbidding normals in Eden. Apparently most proofs think we should be banished, and the sooner the better. But before a judgment can be made, all the people of Eden must hear the evidence, make recommendations, and then bear witness to the final decision of the masters." "Where's the boy?" Bean wants to know, looking anxiously around. "Where's Littleface?" "Hidden away," Ryder says, keeping his voice low and making a sign that we should speak no more about it. So Bree hasn't given up on our promise to raise him like one of her own, which makes me like her even more than I did before. "What about Lanaya?" I ask. "She's in trouble too," Ryder says. "She'll have to answer to the masters." All of a sudden, a hush falls in Stadium as the gathering proofs go silent. They're all staring at something beyond us, and I turn in time to see what they're watching. Right behind us, a small hill is coming unhinged. I swear that's what it looks like. A section of grass tilts up like a lid, then a circular platform rises out of the ground. The platform seems to be made out of the same mirrored black surface we're standing on, but the shape of it changes and expands as it rises. Then, when the whole thing has unfolded from the ground, the platform slowly pivots around until it faces Stadium. On the platform, seated in transparent thrones, are the 7 Masters of Eden. I know without being told who they are. They seem to radiate power and authority without saying a word or making a threat. Some of the Masters are young, but at least 4 of the 7 are quite old. They don't look geezer old like Ryder, with his wrinkled skin and missing teeth, but they have the fragile appearance of old age. Even the very old ones still look perfect somehow, as if age has sharpened their focus on being alive. Standing before them, looking beautiful and angry, but not afraid, never afraid, is our friend Lanaya. I try to catch her attention, but she seems to be avoiding my eyes on purpose, like she doesn't want to be distracted. The oldest master rises from her transparent throne and thumps the platform with a long black stick. "Future Master Lanaya, to the charge of bringing normals into Eden, what say you?" Lanaya faces the hillside, as if she wants to respond to the people there and not just to the masters. "What say you?" repeats the old master. Lanaya takes a deep breath and speaks in a voice that somehow carries to the far ends of the stadium. I say if saving lives is against the rules, then the rules must be changed. The oldest master thumps her stick impatiently. Explain, she demands. They saved my life, so I helped save one of theirs. Tell your entire story, child, the old master urges. Don't make us drag it out of you piecemeal. Renaya bows to the old woman. My thanks to you, Master Ryla. I'm aware that you've taken a special interest in me, since I will one day sit where you sit and listen as you have listened. I only hope I can do as good a job as you have done. Don't bother trying to charm me, child, snaps the ancient Prove. I'm too old to be charmed, even by one so charming and persuasive as yourself. So get on with it. Anaya grins and bows again. My apologies. Let me begin by telling you, all of you, she says, raising her hand to the gathered Proves, that many times I have crossed the zone and journeyed into the herb, sometimes to trade, as some of you have also done, but more often to study the people who live there, the unimproved, the human beings we so contemptuously refer to as normals. From the crowd comes murmurs of comment and exclamation. I can see many of them shaking their heads, frowning in disapproval. Such journeys are, as all of us know, discouraged, and for good reason, Lanaya admits. There are many dangers in the herb: violence, disease, toxic smog. But the greatest danger is ignorance. I speak not only of the ignorance of the normals, but of our own ignorance. We despise the very idea of being normal, and yet those who are normal do not despise us for our apparent perfection. She pauses as if she wants to let that sink in, but I don't see many of the Proves nodding in agreement. Lately, there are new dangers in the herb, she continues, pacing about the stage. In some of the latches, the leaders have stopped leading. Anarchy reigns. Mobs run wild, burning and looting. And why have the leaders failed? Because we have supplied them with brain probes. Master Rella bangs her stick. Do you have proof of this treachery? She demands, her ancient eyes flashing. I do, Lanaya says. Mind probes have long been forbidden in Eden because we know the dangers. And yet there are those who encourage the spread of probing in the herb. At first I didn't know why this should be, and then the truth of it was explained to me by one of the normals you see before you. She points to Ryder. He bows his head slightly. That old man may not have benefited from genetic improvement, but he knows what he knows. He knows there are those in Eden who wish to see the normals destroyed, and what better way than to encourage them to destroy themselves with brain-rotting mind probes? Many of those on the hillside rise to their feet. Some of them are shouting, although I can't quite make out what they're saying. Again, Ryla thumps her black stick. All fall silent. We will investigate, she says, in a voice as clear as an old true bell. If what you say is true, we will take appropriate action. But what has this to do with bringing normals into Eden? What has this to do with saving your life and you saving one of theirs? Lanaya explains about her Takvi getting surrounded, and then when she was trying to pass out edibles to the starving mob. She tells how Ryder risked his own life to distract the mob while she got away. Then she points to me, and this normal, a boy with no parents, a boy shunned even by the lowest of the low, this boy risked his life not only to save me, but to save his sister, who was dying. How could I refuse to help when I knew she might be saved if only I could bring her here? There are a few murmurs of agreement from the assembled Proofs, but not many. As you can see, she was easily cured by our technology. We have the means to cure almost all of the diseases that plague the herb, and yet we don't bother trying. We let them sicken and die. We let them starve. We let their latches burn. Is that right? Is that proper? I say no. I say we must remember that the people we call normal are not so different from ourselves. Heckling comes from the crowd on the hill. Lanaya has gone too far. Look at them, someone cries. They're ugly. They're hideous. They're stupid. They're normal. Lanaya waits until the shouting dies down, and then raises her hand, pointing to her own beautiful face. Is this how we judge ourselves? By our pretty faces? By perfect noses, delicate ears, lustrous hair? Is that why the first engineers risked their lives to improve our chances of survival? More shouting from the crowd. Don't forget brains, Lanaya. We're smarter, too. Lanaya smiles to herself, as if that's exactly the comment she was hoping to inspire. Smarter? Is that what makes us Proofs? Yes, they shout. Yes! Ryla thumps her black stick. Let her speak, she roars. Anaya makes a bow of thanks to the old master. We come to the subject of intelligence, she says, because all of us believe we're smarter than any normal. That makes it easier for us to pretend they're not really human like us. But what if I told you that a normal, a girl of 12, learned the game of chess in less than an hour, and then beat one of the top-rated players in Eden? The sounds coming from the stadiums mean that no one believes her. They think it impossible that a girl from the herb could be smarter than a man born in Eden. Think about it, people, Anaya shouts, making herself heard above the roar of disbelief. Where do we come from? Our genetic coding is the same. We're all human beings. We all start from the same place. The children of the herb, and some of the herb children don't need any improvement. They're already smart, already intelligent, already gifted. If nothing else, they have the gift of courage. No, the crowd roars. No! Yes! Lanaya shouts, raising her fists. Then she points at me and Bean. Yes! Let these young normals be raised in Eden with all of our advantages, and they'll do more than beat us at chess. They'll teach us what it truly is to be human, because they have already experienced something none of you have. They risked everything simply to go on living. No, the crowd roars. No! Yes! Yes! Lanaya shouts. She points at Ryder. See this old man? He's lived but half as long as some of you, and yet he has more courage, more imagination than any of you. He must have, simply to survive. Let him teach us. Let him tell his stories. Let him write that the children of Eden have opened the gates to paradise. The crowd roars back, drowning her out. The old master thumps her black stick. A hush of silence finally descends upon the stadium. Stay if you agree, Ryla commands. Leave if you don't. Proves by the thousands stream off the hillside, leaving it green and empty. Lanaya stares at the vanishing crowds as if she can't believe her own eyes. Masters, she finally calls out in a much smaller voice. What say you? The masters quietly confer among themselves for many minutes. Once or twice they look over at the three of us, but their perfect faces give nothing away. When they are done, Ryla thumps her stick 3 times and then slowly walks to the front of the platform. Lanaya, you spoke well, she says. When you are a master, things may change. But for now, the rule must stand. Eden shall be Eden. The masters have spoken. Then she turns her back and walks away.